Hello, welcome. I'm Natha Perkins. We're going to talk about the astrology for the month of March. It is already March. And how do we feel about this background? Getting a little fancy. Anyway, before I get started, I want to invite you. I'm doing another free class. You might remember that I held a winter solstice class on the shadow, how to work with it. This one is called the Balancing Act, and it is happening on the equinox, right before the equinox, when the sun enters Aries. This is a really big astrological time, a moment. Ceres, an asteroid that you don't hear that much about, but that I use all the time in my readings. Really potent energy, really informative. Ceres is a main player in this equinox chart. So we are going to be talking about how to balance between that Aries energy drive, action, decision-making, and anger, and Ceres, the body, the self-care, our relationship to beauty and the way that we tend to or don't tend to ourselves. So you can register at electraastrology.com. It's a free class. These are always good and they always fill up. So register early. We begin this month with Saturn and Pluto at 29 degrees. Pluto at 29 Capricorn, Saturn at 29 Aquarius. 29th degree is a very intense degree. It makes you feel like you need to complete something, like the mission is almost over, but you don't have all of the information yet, so it can feel like a frustrating degree. Know that we're here. Pluto is poised at 29 until the 23rd, and Saturn enters on March 8th. In this space of the 29th degree of both of these very powerful planets, take time to allow what you need to see to show up. This isn't really a time to be rushing around trying to complete. Aries energy makes you want to move into action and be very quick, but one of the shadows of Aries energy is that you rush in without thinking it through, so don't do that. On March 7th, we have a full moon in Virgo, making a harmonious connection to Uranus. So we're dealing with that Pisces-Virgo balance, the spirituality, the wanting to see things through the bigger lens, wanting to tune in, but also the understanding that we're still humans in human bodies and we do have limitations. You're not to let your limitations get the best of you and get so focused on the to-do list, the tasks that need to be done, that you lose touch with your spiritual self. But you also don't want to be so far out in the land of spirit. I talk about this in my Hidden Wisdom Astrology membership group, that Piscean energy is amazing and creative, and it flows and it touches us in with higher power, with the divine, but we can also fall under illusions. We can ignore red flags and think that things are better than they actually are. So remember, if something feels too good to be true, it literally probably is. On March 8th, Saturn is entering Pisces. So Saturn is going to spend the next approximately 3 years in this sign. So those places where you have fallen for it, you have fallen under a spell, you have moved into doing something that you thought was going to bring you all of the riches. You tried to find that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and what you realized was you got tricked, or you got deceived, or you buried your head in the sand and refused to believe that things were not as they seemed. Well, this is a 3-year period where Saturn is going to help you to clean it up. Saturn is difficult energy because we have to do things we don't want to do. We have to take responsibility. We have to repay our debts. We have to stand up and stand in our power and have better boundaries. We have to go back and apologize. There are all of these ways that we have to take accountability for the places where we lost it or we dropped the ball. But ultimately, Saturn brings you to a place of mastery where you can look back and you can say, I might have messed that up, but at least I handled it. At least I had the integrity to go back and make the repairs. You might be feeling some of that energy right now. You might be seeing where you fell into the hole and figure out how to climb back out. On March 20th, we have our equinox. March 19th, I'm having an equinox class. I'm going to talk about the implications of an equinox, what it means, But also we're going to talk about Aries because that's when the sun switches signs into Aries. And that switch between Pisces and Aries is a huge one. It's where astrologically we go from spending the last 6 months dealing with transpersonal themes that have to do with other people, themes that have to do with the divine, things that are not really within our control. And we switch into the personal, where we begin to have more control, for better or for worse. It does require a certain amount of introspection over the next 6 months. So join me for that class. We're going to dive into all of this. On March 21st, we have a new moon in Aries that is going to oppose Ceres. It's going to bring in these questions that I'm talking about. How do you advocate for yourself? How do you follow your own desires, but without being selfish? How do you mother yourself, but maybe not in the same ways that you were mothered? Maybe you need to do it differently. Maybe you need to do it better. I'm going to talk about some of that in the class. On March 23rd, Pluto enters Aquarius. Pluto entered Capricorn in late 2008, early 2009. So think about what the world looked like then, what your world looked like. Pluto rules the themes of our shadows, our secrets, our mysteries, but also our deeper search for awareness. Awareness is always here for the taking, but sometimes awareness means having to look at how you have shown up, at how other people have treated you, and the stories that you have created around those things. Mars on the 23rd is going to enter Cancer. Mars is about our energy, our action, our drive. When Mars enters Cancer, it's bound by the energy of the moon, which means our emotions may inform the actions that we take, for better or for worse. Remember that emotions are very informative, but they do not tell the whole story. In order to know the whole story, we have to rely on all 4 of the elements. The action that we're willing to take, that's fire. The thoughts that we think or are willing not to think, that's air. The reality that we exist in, the way that we care for our physical body, that's earth. Water represents the emotions, the way that we allow our emotions to impact us or the way that we don't. Hope this was helpful. Have a good month.